Let's get started. Today, as you know, our main subject for the discussion is omni-channel commerce. I'm going to be presenting along with Anshuk and Arvind, who are going to join us for the panel discussion. To begin with, Anshuk will set some context for the rest of the discussion and then we can proceed. Anshuk, over to you.
Thanks, Manasvi. Hi, everyone. Super happy to be part of this special sort of an online session. So we don't call it as a webinar because we have a very exclusive set of people join us here today. These are all the large retail brands which we work as Adyogi, and we have been working for the last several years. So we have people from RBL brands join today. We have people from Iconic. We have people from Libas. We have people from Rare. These are all the brands which we have been working extensively over the last several years. A brief intro about me. I think many of you I would have been directly interacting with. I'm one of the founders of Adyogi, been at it for the last 10 years now. We in fact just completed 10 years this year. So super excited to be part of the entire e-com journey in India and working with many of the large retail and apparel brands and e-commerce brands. Today, we have a very special topic at hand, omni-channel marketing. And I know many of you must be thinking that what's so new about omni-channel that we are sort of talking about it. I want to definitely call out that we have done extensive work in this space in the last 6 months. I have personally been interacting with both Meta and Google and both their leadership teams, their product teams, their tech teams on how can we sort of grow store sales using Google and Meta as platforms. And I want to definitely call out that we have made a massive progress, not only as Adyogi, but also Meta and Google have made massive progress in this space, that you can actually now run digital campaigns on Google and Meta and drive not only footfall to your stores, but also revenue to your stores. And many of this technology has been rolled out extensively only in the last 6 months. So we have this whole concept of offline CAPI, OCAPI by Meta. We have concept of store sales integrations on Google. Very recently, there has been extensive ads you might have seen on Google Maps also. And all this has happened in the as recent past as last 6 months. We've also worked extensively with some brands on scaling them using digital channels, driving more offline and retail sales for them. And Manasvi will talk about some examples of Manyavar and how we have done extensive work with them. So today we are going to share with you the work we have done, the learnings we have got, and the key actionable which you have. The reason we have only our existing brands join this discussion is because we want to make it very actionable. It's not really a marketing sort of thing for us. It's more of actionable. And at the end of the webinar, happy to understand from you as to how can we take the Omni journey started for your brand. And Omni is one of the big focus for us in 2025, which is why we are starting the year with a big focus on how can we enable Omni for our brands. So that's a little context, and I'll hand it over to Manasvi. She's been the one driving Omni for us, and she's probably the best person to be speaking about it. Glad to have her here. Over to you, Manasvi. Manasvi, you're on mute.
Sorry, apologies. Thank you so much, Anshuk, for that context setting. I'll walk everybody through the agenda quickly before we move on to our main presentation. First, of course, what can you expect from Omnichannel? We've been working on Omnichannel campaigns for the last 2 quarters very extensively. So we've got a lot of learnings from that. What kind of results can we expect? Why Omnichannel? Because, of course, I think everybody who's joined in would at least want that answered clearly for them. And we're going to have Arvind talk about that. Then we'll talk about how to approach your omni-channel journey. So if you're ready to get started, what is it that you need to do clear step by step in terms of what are our next steps? Again, a little bit on way forward, and then we'll move on to a Q&A round with Anshuk and Arvind, who are going to ask are going to answer some very pressing questions on these whole omni-channel, next steps and campaigns for us. First of all, I'd like to just talk a little bit about what can we expect. We've seen that anywhere upwards of 10,000 per store per month store visits is something that we've seen we can drive with the right kind of spends. we've seen that with omni-channel campaigns, generally 30% incremental store visits and somewhere around a 15% incremental store revenue also we've been able to drive, given that we've run those campaigns consistently for a good 2 to 3 months at least. These are some of the brands where we've experimented with omni-channel campaigns, where we're running omni-channel campaigns full time. Manevar Mohe brands are the ones where we've been, working constantly on for the last quarter, and we've had a lot of learnings from them. Now coming to our main pressing question, which everybody would like answered, why omni-channel? And I think no one better than Arvind, because he talks very passionately about omni-channel and offline marketing. So Arvind, we like you to explain very briefly why is this the right time to do omni-channel?
Yeah. So let me take a step back and say this, that brand owners are doing omni-channel marketing from the inception of marketing. We used to run home hoardings, we used to do TVC, we used to do newspaper ad, which will have impact overall, whether it is every vertical from MBOs to EBOs to key account and even on the D2C vertical. Although .com business was not so big, but there was always a known fact with the brand owners that the digital channel will be the better channel to show the brand awareness and to reach out to the right set of audience. But because attribution was not there, and second, implementing those learnings very quickly was not there. That's why digital was not the preferred channel, I would say, a year or 2 years before into the Omni. But what is happening with Google and Meta in last 2 quarters, that the attribution becoming very, very important and very, very transparent, I must say. Their attribution become very, very robust. We have Meta provided the OKP integration where you can push your store sales and you know that the dollar which you are spending on Meta, how much attribution it is giving to your .com business and how much attribution it is giving to your offline vertical. Similarly, for Google, we have a SSI integration, which is a server-side integration, so that or store sales integration, where you can push the store sales data and you can see the correct attribution of that particular thing. Third thing, very important, is because PMAX and Advantage Plus coming into picture for both store objectives also. What can happen is that the learning of those store sales can be passed back to the platform, and your system will start learning within a week, and the performance keep going up and up. So these is somehow closing the channel of attribution as well as learning from that attribution and optimizing the campaign accordingly. So that's why it's the right time to spend money on omni-channel. I think within a quarter or so, omni-channel is going to be everyone will be doing that. But still, we believe that the retail brand which we have, I think 10 or 12% are still doing omni. There is a lot of scope for the early mover because market is open. People are looking for the brands, and it's the right time because SS is coming, and for every retail brand, summer, spring, and the monsoon festivals are two big platform. We have all our brand campaign which are supposed to go live, say between February to March, the right time to go for that. And I think in this slide also we are just trying to show the same thing, is that even if you are running an online campaign, you just do the OKP integration, it will give you a confidence that how much attribution you are getting from online or say offline campaign, which will show you that how much attribution you can get from the store sales and how accurate this data it is. We have seen that accuracy can be as good as 90 to 95%. Over to Manasvi. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, thank you so much, Arvind. I think what has really changed in the last 2 quarters is, like he said, attribution is becoming a lot more simpler and a lot more accurate. As we can see here for this particular brand, we've done nothing but OCAPI integration so far, and your existing online campaigns are showing at some point some level of offline revenue and offline purchases also. So for if they've driven 600 website purchases, these campaigns have also driven an additional 350 offline purchases. If not anything, this can at least help you decide where your marketing spends within those offline campaigns should be attributed or be redirected to, in terms of which campaigns are doing well for both offline and online conversions. Now coming to how we exactly should be doing this, is we've actually broken this down into 3 phases for just simplicity's sake. Phase 1 is just measurement. You do your integrations, you do OCAPI, SSI integration. Now, this can be done in two manners, whether you do a manual or a third-party integration using like a SaaS provider. Phase two is more about awareness and increasing footfall. So during phase two, we start setting up our, get directions, hyperlocal campaigns on Meta and store footfall campaigns on Google. Phase three is actually campaigns that take your store sales or offline conversions as an objective. This is something that we'll come to in our follow-up discussions, because there is an eligibility criteria for both Meta and Google required to come to this stage three, basically. Elaborating on phase one, we say that screenshot that we saw earlier where your existing online campaigns were showing certain offline ROAS, we're saying that just set up this measurement piece, just integrate your offline store purchases data, send it to Meta and send it to Google separately, and at least we'll be able to see some level of attribution against your online campaigns for your offline revenue. This can be done with a third party integration. We have partners that help do this. Or if we wanted to just test the waters and see how how our existing campaigns are performing and everything, we could also do a manual upload as a one time, or let's say on a weekly basis. Once we're confident that, this is something that's working out really well for us, then we could do that automated integration as well. Once our measurement piece is set and we know that yes, there's already some impact of our online campaigns on offline, we can move on to phase two, which is setting up dedicated campaigns for driving offline, awareness or footfall on Meta and Google respectively. On Meta, hyperlocal campaigns generally target our, awareness objective, and you'll get a CTA of get directions. So this is just to increase awareness about the presence of your store amongst your target audience. On Google, you can use a PMAX for store sales campaign with again the CTA of get directions. In Google, one more benefit is that once you run get directions campaigns for a little while, once you do a certain spend on it, we also become eligible for your store visit campaign. So idea is to get eligible for store visit on Google and run store visit campaigns in the longer run, because that's going to actually not just drive store footfall for you, but we'll also be able to measure store footfall campaigns on Google. So this is an idea in terms of what your ads will look like. This one that's playing already is ad that we saw on Instagram. It once you click on the get direction, it lands you on the maps and shows you the directions to that particular store. So it's very straightforward. You see the ad, you click on it, you get the get directions to the store. So that's how a Meta ad would look like. This one was like a story ad, to be specific. On Google, it serves your ads on all of the same placements as any regular PMAX campaign. This, for example, I just searched for, luggage near me, and I got an ad for American Tourister. So this is part of the store sale campaigns on Google PMAX campaigns. All right, moving on. There are certain prerequisites to starting these campaigns. For example, at a store level, we need to make sure that, we need to at least get an idea of what are your current store revenue percentages or revenue shares across the country, so that we know which stores are doing well, which stores are not doing well. A store locator on the website, so that in case certain campaigns are not landing on maps and landing on website, we want to track those pages with pixel and eventually even remarket those audiences. If possible, a footfall tracker in store also helps, because then you can match your Google reported footfall to your actual footfall and see how accurate that number is. On Meta, we need to add store listings to be sure that, when a person is clicking on get directions, they're actually redirected to the right location. So it's basically you have to add the link to that store on Meta so that it can take to the right store and provide the directions. OCAPI configuration, like we've talked about, is also an essential for measurement. Then on Google, Google My Business verified store listings are necessary. I think that's something that anyway with offline presence, most stores do. Your Google account has to also be connected to GMB so that we can actually access those store listings. And lastly, SSI integration, similar to the OCAPI integration on Meta. All right. Now, one more important thing when getting started with our campaigns for, your store marketing is how you're bucketing those stores. we've generally seen that if you bucket them by a certain, use case, like in this case, we've presented an example of new stores versus priority versus problem, it becomes simpler to strategize by the bucket, and even your creative planning needs to happen by the bucket. So, for example, where you have new stores that have opened within the last 12 months, we know that the strategy is going to be more and more focused on awareness and driving footfall than, let's say, initially just focusing on, your revenue. Plus, for new stores, you need to do creatives that are bringing attention to the fact that it's a new store, large store, so and so collections available. So your creative will also have to be slightly customized to that kind of a store. Priority stores, we'd say these are the ones that you think have high potential, that they're contributing really great already and can do much better, because here we would try and drive additional revenue. We know that probably footfall is not a problem as it is. So we focus on driving more and more revenue out of these stores. Lastly, we have the problem stores bucket. These are the stores that are, let's say, we think that there is, they're struggling in terms of performance. Footfall is also not up to the mark. This is where we focus a lot more on driving additional footfall and then trying to solve for the revenue problem as well. So this store bucketing also becomes very important and is one of the keys to the entire strategy, because if you're able to bucket it well, then accordingly rest of the campaign execution will also be seamless and we'll be able to measure properly as well. Now coming to creative recommendations, generally best practices are that we run videos that are in-store videos. Like in this case, you can see that this person is inside the store trying on the collections, everything. Influencer or celebrity-led creatives do have a better ad recall and they tend to have better CTRs also. So wherever possible, try to do like better videos. For remarketing, we can opt for like banners where your collection is showing and that sort of stuff. But for prospecting, more and more videos is what's preferred. All right. In terms of reporting, this is what you can expect. This is a sample report for just a randomized bucket of stores right now. Generally, for this piece, the omni-channel piece, we've seen week on week reporting makes a lot of sense because you're able to see the incrementality, or of course, if there's lack of, then you'll also see that. So in this case, like we can see, as soon as we started investing a little bit and gradually increasing the investments, we're also seeing a positive correlation where the store visits are also increasing. So this is the kind of reporting that helps us take decisions in terms of budgets, which stores are doing well, where is the cost, let's say, not exactly very efficient. So this is done at a cohort level, but can also be done at the store level, let's say in case there are certain single stores that we're tracking very closely. Now coming to my last piece, way forward and what we can expect, going forward once we decide to, take the leap and start with our omni-channel journey. First point to note here is that there is an optimal budget range per store per week that we've seen, that in case you're spending under that optimal range, the incrementality doesn't really show up, and even beyond that optimal range, not necessary that you'll see incrementality. So we generally recommend that between 20,000 to 40,000 per week per store is the budget that we should be committing. Now, according to that, we've come up with two plans. One is, let's say you decide to start with 5 stores, and 5 stores is what we want to start with. In that case, we recommend that we do a budget of 5 lakh per month, with these 5 stores being tier 1 cities only. Of course, this will include store level reporting. Minimum runtime should ideally be 3 to 6 months, like I mentioned. Similarly, if you plan to do 10 stores, let's say you want to start with 10 stores to begin with, we'd say keep it a mix of tier 1 and tier 2 cities. And then we can start with 10 stores. Again, runtime of 3 to 6 months, store level reporting. Just that Adyogi fees in this case will not include our OCAPI or SSI integration, because we have third-party partners whose expertise is basically this integration. So that will continue to be separate. Now let's say that we decide to go ahead with this and, kind of say that, okay, let's get started with this. Here are your next steps. You can book a call using this QR code. If you just scan, this is my Calendly link. So you can just book a call with me in terms of just a consult on your omni-channel strategy. Once you book a call, we'll help you make that decision between an OCAPI integration through a third party or, let's say, manually. Once that is done, we sit down on the store bucketing, the creative strategy, and within a 2 week window with the Okapi integration coming through and everything, we can have the campaigns live. So in case you're interested, please use this QR code to book a call with us. I'll also just come back to this slide later on, so in case you've missed on the QR, we can take a snapshot of it. Now it's time for our Q&A session with Anshuk and Arvind. All right. So I think we're going to start off with that. Just give me a moment. Yes. All right. So we have questions coming in already. I'm going to shoot the first question for Anshuk. Just a moment. All right. Anshuk, our first question is that why should brands decide to prioritize omni-channel over a pure D2C approach?
Yes. So I think Arvind also sort of summarized it really well, right? So far, we always thought of Facebook and Google as channels to drive sales on our brand.com, which could be, let's say, motherk.com, clarks.com. And we always thought that for offline retail stores, it's the offline marketing which plays the biggest role, which could be like hoardings, which could be TV also, which is above the line marketing. But now for the first time, we are seeing that a lot of marketing for stores is also moving to digital. And the primary reason is there is a good attribution using offline CAPI and enhanced conversions, which is possible, which means not only can you advertise your stores using Facebook and Google, you can also measure the impact of that advertising. So think of it as branding for stores versus performance marketing for stores. And what we are talking about here is performance marketing for stores. And I know performance marketing for stores has always been the unheard concept. We always thought of performance marketing for your brand.com, but for this is the first time where performance marketing for store is possible. And you would and what can also happen is if you start doing performance marketing for stores, you might figure out that look, that's actually way more efficient to drive store footfall. And over a period of time, I'm reasonably confident that brands would shift a lot of their offline budgets to online budgets when it comes to their store marketing. Back to you, Manasvi.
Thank you, Anshuk. Next question for Arvind. I think, Arvind, this is a very relevant question also, that brands just starting with their omni-channel journey, what would be your top piece of advice to them? Because I know that there's a lot of things that you can do, but what would it be that you would recommend that start with this?
I would break this into two parts. One is that first fix the attribution, which is I think our phase one also, because this is the key to get the things get started. So first is attribution is a must. Without attribution, it will be like a branding, as Anshuk was saying, it won't be a performance marketing per se. Second is that focused approach. I always prefer that start with 10 or 15 stores if you have to spend say 10 or 15 lakhs only, rather than going all across India, or say starting with all 139 store. You first test that what is working for you and then start building your strategy on top of that, because else you will not see the impact. If you start spending 10 lakh rupees on 100 stores, you will not see incremental sale for any of the stores. And third very important piece is this: when you are choosing your stores, make sure that you are choosing the store where there is a lot of room for store to grow. Either choose for the tier 1 cities or go for the stores where you see you just launch the store and there is a lot of scope for the store to grow.
All right. Thank you so much, Arvind. Anshuk, next question for you again, and I believe this is because we are recommending that we start with either 5 or 10 stores. What if we want to start with all stores? What should be the strategy?
Depends on how many stores a brand has. So if let's say all means 10, 20, then that makes a lot of sense. The reason we typically recommend starting with a smaller set of stores is because omni-channel marketing is a journey. In online world, the moment you switch on the ads, we may start seeing sales coming on the Shopify website or backend. So we get this real-time feedback. But in the real world, it's unlikely to assume that people will see an ad on Instagram and then take out their car and then drive to the nearest mall and walk into the store. That's not how usually the behavior happens. The behavior is you see an ad, and of course, you probably plan for it over the coming weekend or the coming weekends and then walk into the store, which means that there is a lot of late attribution which happens in the real world, which is the retail offline store footfall world. Which also means that whichever stores we decide to advertise on, we need to have that 3 to 6 month sort of a time frame in mind to be able to see the real impact coming into the stores. And also that if you're spreading our budget too thin, then we may not have a perceptible impact in the store footfall. So imagine we're probably putting like 5,000 rupees or 10,000 INR per month per store and spread it out across 100 stores. Then we may not see that impact. Even if we are getting incremental footfalls, it might be too small to really observe it. So usually our recommendation is, even if you start with a smaller cohort of stores, have a minimum budget of, let's say, 20,000 per week, or roughly 60 to 80,000 per month, to be able to
Anshuk, I lost you there. Arvind, can you hear Anshuk?
I think Anshuk is back, but I lost him also.
Okay. Anshuk, are you back with us?
Yes, I seem to have some internet challenge.
Yes.
My only point was, if we spread our budget too thin, then we may not see a perceptible impact in the store footfall. Back to you, Manasvi.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Moving on to the next questions. I think there's two questions that I'm just going to link together. First
Manasvi, I
is
think
how
Manish
long.
raised his hand. I can see that.
Yes. We'll take all questions. I think, Manish, you have your hand up. If you can just drop your question in the chat window, we'll take it up. And in the meanwhile, we have two questions, which I'm going to, like I said, link together. Number one is how long does the integration process take, and what's the estimated cost, assuming that we go via third party? And if we have the attribution integrated, will the campaign start optimizing more for offline conversions is another question. Arvind, do you want to take these questions, please?
Yeah. So as of now, Meta and Google does not have a CTA where you can optimize them for offline online conversion. It depends on the objective. So your online campaign will be still optimizing on your online goals only, which is the .com pages. Your offline pages where your goal is store visit, it will optimizing on the store visit. As Manasvi was saying, in phase 3, Meta and Google are coming up with their store sales objective also. Once we have that objective, then we can go to the store sales objective. Just treat this way that suppose if you are running an offline ad, and after watching that ad, customer can spill over a .com pages, so that attribution will come, but it is still optimizing on the offline objective only, which will be store visit. Similarly, a online or D2C ad will be optimizing only for the D2C website, but you can see what is the impact is happening to the stores. And with that audience learning, your online campaign will be optimizing in much better fashion. Their learning phase will be faster.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Arvind. And I know that we had a question about estimate. So actually, the estimate of doing this exercise depends on volume of your orders offline. So we'll connect with you separately. We'll get the volume of orders offline from you, and then we can get a quote on that. So if you're interested, just ping me, and I'll help you sort that out as well. And like Arvind said, we are able to separately set up campaigns on Google for offline conversion. Specifically on Meta also, there are betas now that can help you select whether you want to target online and offline both, or just online. So it's not that immediately your campaign starts optimizing for offline conversions only. That's something that we will have to take an action towards. So moving on to our next question, Anshuk, this one for you. How do you measure and attribute the success of an omni-channel campaign differently from pure digital campaigns?
Yes. Can you hear me, Manasvi, clearly now?
Yes. We hear you very clearly.
Perfect. So omni-channel campaign actually has 3 stages of measurement. One is a very basic one where you say that once you run the Omni campaigns, how many people have clicked on the get directions on Meta. The second, and also on Google. The second stage is of the people who have clicked on get directions, how many people have actually walked into the store. Now, I know many of us might find it difficult to believe that how are we able to track store footfalls. So Meta is not able to track store footfalls, but Google, with the support of Google Maps integration, is able to track store footfalls. Google also has a nice pictorial representation of how that works. But our understanding is it's a mix of signals from Google Maps and also Wi-Fi and cell phone triangulation. So that's how Google is able to figure out how many people have walked into the store after they have seen an ad. Once the store footfall has happened, there is also a tracking of revenue on the store, which is done using offline CAPI, which is basically sending data from your POS system, point of sales machine, back into the Meta systems and sending data from POS system back into Google systems, which can be done in a privacy friendly manner. So you can actually encrypt the data and send it across so that there is no sort of fear of losing PII data. Using these three stages for each Omni campaign, you can measure all three matrices, assuming the brand gets whitelisted over a period of time: number of get directions, number of store footfalls, and revenue. So you can actually measure cost per store footfall at a campaign level. You can also measure ROAS, return on ad spend, of an Omni campaign, which means if you spent, let's say, 1 lakh rupee in ads, what is the actual revenue you have got from the store in terms of incremental store revenue? Back to you, Manasvi.
Thank you, Anshuk. We have a follow-up question on the previous one where we talked about whether, doing OCAPI integration leads to the system optimizing for more offline audiences. And the follow-up is that, isn't the audience decided on the basis of the people that convert after seeing an ad? So I'd like to just take that question. To answer that, the thing is, once you do OCAPI integration, Meta system does say that yes, we're going to be able to target more and more right people for you. But anyway, the system, when it shows ads to a person, it doesn't know whether the person is going to convert online or offline. We've shown ad to a person, and mostly we've only been able to see the online conversions because we had tracking for that. It's just that now we're adding that layer of tracking for offline also. And if there's a customer that's an offline person, likes to visit the store and convert, they will anyway convert offline. And if it's an online first customer, they will convert online. So it doesn't impact much in terms of what kind of people they show ad to. But yes, your attribution becomes better and you're able to accurately see where your revenues are actually coming from and what is the impact of your online campaigns on offline. If you want to actually say that yes, we want to target an offline customer and we want to optimize more for that, there is a separate campaign you can actually set up for the same and have that campaign drive more offline conversions for you.
Manasvi, just wanted to add one point here. There may
Yes,
be
please.
some brand owner might have this thing that once I passing the offline conversion, it might cannibalize my offline business. It will start
Yes.
showing my offline customer more online ad, which sometimes we have seen that in stores you have only fresh merchandise, and in D2C business you might have a fresh as well as discounted merchandise both. So there can be a very simple approach is that you can exclude the exact offline customer from your online campaign, but by the virtue of giving it more purchase signal, system will start state learning and keep going for the lookalike audience. So you can avoid your cannibalization of your offline customer if you wanted to do that. Although what we recommend is that it is brand, people are seeing the ad, and there can be a lot of influx into your store. Also, once your ad is available to everyone, system is learning that what is the total universe of the audience or I would say customer you have for that particular product.
Yes, makes sense, Arvind. All right, moving on to the next question. I think ask like a true, digital marketing person, how soon can we expect to see the results? And how can we measure revenue impact of these campaigns? Arvind, do you want to take that question?
Yeah, so let me first ask how soon. Meta and Google mostly recommend 6 weeks duration, where we have seen and again it depends on the accuracy of your integration of OCAPI and SSI. In manual upload, we have seen the accuracy would be somewhere around 60 to 70%. right? In API-based integration, we have seen the accuracy of 85% plus. So first, it depends on the accuracy of data. Second, the minimum duration, I would recommend it at least 4 to 6 weeks. After that, you will see the incremental sale impact in the stores as well as in your Meta and Google respective platform. But 3 months is where your campaign would be completely matured, and then you can start implementing the double down on your impact, that you can start into your store net, and you can see that how much budget of your ATL campaign you wanted to move to the digital spend.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I think one more question, Arvind, if you can take this one. Are there any other criteria for bucketing of stores, and why is that bucketing important?
So let me put it that way, that why bucketing is so much important is that sometimes we have seen that people do bucketing on the basis of geographies. Said, suppose I wanted to start only in Delhi or I want to start in Mumbai. So when we were discussing with Meta and Google leadership, we realized that uh, how should I say, a Delhi audience won't work like Mumbai audience. The way every audience across India for a particular brand is work, that what kind of store they belong on. So that's why we say that you have to find your right winners, whether you wanted to focus on your best seller store, or you wanted to focus on your problematic store, or you wanted to focus into the new store. There can be one more concept which you called movement store. So suppose in Karol Bagh you have an old store which is 200 square feet. Now you open a store of 2000 square feet. People are still coming to a 200 square feet store where uh, your catalog availability is very less. You wanted to move them to a 2000 square feet store. That can be another bucket where you can work. So eventually there can be 4 bucket, and after that there can be one concept. Suppose in a mall you have a shopper stop where you are doing very good sale, and now you open a EBO over there. You wanted to see how many people you are able to move from shopper stop to that EBO. That kind of business problem we can solve with a strategy, because every bucket there will be a different mix of Meta and Google. There will be a different mix of, per se, top funnel versus bottom funnel activities. So you have to uh, put your bucket on the basis of business problem, not on the basis of geographies or say cities.
Correct, correct. And I think how this is also important is, if you bucket them right, your strategy obviously differs. You can also plan your creative much better. Let's say if there are stores which are multi-category. So if there are certain stores that do well for one particular category, let's say your footwear category, you know that to that audience, you that area, or for those bucket of stores, you want to show more footwear ads. Whereas a different bucket where, let's say, an apparel is doing better, you want to show more apparel ads. So that will also vary from your store to store. So that's why that bucketing becomes very important, I feel. All right. I think one last question, and Anshuk, this one's for you, and sort of a leading question. If I want to start my campaigns today, what should I be doing?
Yes, yes. Uh, that's the big call to action for today. Definitely, we highly recommend that you jump onto the Omni bandwagon, so to say. Even if we don't go full blown by saying that we want to run it for all stores, I would highly recommend to start thinking about running it for the first set of pilot stores. I do understand it requires a little leadership alignment also, because many times we have heard that, look, I belong to the online team, I'm not a part of the offline team. Or you might say, I belong to the offline team, but I don't manage Facebook and Google ads. So we would highly recommend that, number one, I think having that awareness within the organization that, look, you can use digital channels to drive footfall to the store is the number one step. Have that candid conversation with the management team that this can be done. Of course, if you think that we can step in, you want us to talk about it, happy to do that as well. Once that alignment is reached, we would recommend doing a pilot. A pilot could be 3 store, 5 store, 7 store, 10 stores. Pilot itself would take 3 to 4 months, we would say, because first setting up that OCAPI and all that integration, nuts and bolts, is a long drawn process. We typically expect 2 to 4 weeks just going on in there. Then going live with the campaigns, measuring the impact, optimizing the campaigns, and taking the numbers back to the leadership management and sort of building a case for Omni takes some time. But the benefit there is, if we start today, by the time we are close to the festive season, which is August, September, October in India, we'll be all set with our Omni strategy, and we would be in time to really scale the Omni strategy, not only to our pilot stores, but maybe to a broader set of our stores. So the call out today is to get the ball rolling on the ground by getting the first set of pilots run for Omni. There will be a lot of learning in the process. We have been working with Manyavar for the last 6 months. We've got tremendous learning. Every month we go back and we figure out what else can be done. The same learning will happen for all the brands as well. But the big call out is to not delay it if we have to set ourselves for the festive season.
Thank you, Anshuk. I'd also like to just add one thing with Omni. One thing that's very, very different from the online piece is that you can't go live with the campaign today and then start seeing the results tomorrow. There's always a lag time that happens. So a little bit more advanced planning is definitely required. So like Anshuk said, that if your peak season is, let's say, August, September, October, then it's better to start off a little bit earlier so you have that, advantage of time to plan for it properly, pilot a couple of things and know by that time that what is your perfect strategy. Rest, like you can see here, the QR for booking a call with us is right on your screens. So please feel free to book a call with me. We'll spend time on your brand specifically. What are the strategies we should be adopting? What should be the store bucketing? How to proceed forward? We'll guide you through the entire process so that the process is simple and straightforward for you as well. And that's it at our end. Thank you so much for joining today, folks, and hoping to get my calendar fully blocked for this week and next week with multiple calls. And looking forward to doing pilots for all of the brands that have joined in today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anshuk and Arvind, for joining in and for answering all of those questions for us. I do see that there's a lot of curiosity around offline campaigns and store campaigns. So looking forward to getting this started.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Manasvi.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Arvind.
Thank you. Bye-bye.